Good morning, Suzanne Joy.
Good morning, Deborah Lee Ann.
Would you
Whoop.
put a few drops of that Suzanne Joy in here? Because
Okay. Sprinkles. Oh, goodness.
this is going to
Today
be a great Gene Key talk. Go ahead,
we're
introduce.
t- we are talking about Gene Key 24, and this is talking about Gene Keys written by Richard Rudd. And this key is all about silence, the ultimate addiction. Now, when we talk about these gene keys, as we've stated before, there are three states of consciousness that we're moving and ebbing and flowing through. And the shadow is the very human stuff. It's really in our physicality, and that is about addiction. When we go to the very high state, the acidic state, it is all about silence, and
Yeah.
we get there through the gift, which is the middle state, and that is all about invention.
Yes, please. More, please.
Yes, more of
And
that.
yes. Um, so addiction, when you hear that word, for many of us who might be recovering addicts or have addiction close nearby with loved ones, it is a very triggering word. So I'm glad that he does this because he uses these words. The magic, the power of words is palpable for me in this word because it just makes me, ugh. um,
Yeah.
which is part of what we're going to talk about. So would you please introduce this shadow because it's almost too hard for me to talk about.
So, when we think about the shadow of addiction, I mean, it's not just drug or alcohol or anything like that. I mean, we're talking about addiction to numbing out and feeling everything, and um, it could be it could be anything. It could be work. Oh my gosh, I know that there was a time in my life where I was just addicted to that, just so that I wouldn't have. It was like I compartmentalized parts of my life so that I wouldn't have to um, face or be with the uncomfortableness of my existence at that moment in time. So addiction is certainly a, as he calls it, a glitch. It's a circuitry. Think
And we
of
all have it, right? We all,
absolutely.
because
Yeah.
is it anxiety driven? Is it
Well,
running from? Is it so it is something that's in us,
right.
whether we want to look at it or not. So that's
This
so
and
so a lot of people have an addiction to not looking at their addictions.
right. There's also this is all taking place in the neocortex. So this is, up in here where things go again and again and again. Um and a lot of times we have to go into the root of the issue. And that's where we're going to find the human suffering. And I think that's why we have addictions, is because we don't want to face the root.
And we don't want to
Uh,
sit in the suffering either.
no. So
Hmm.
there's repressive nature of this key is frozen. And he says when repressive nature comes across a gap in their awareness, the fear insides the fear inside them freezes up. So, it's how we guard ourselves, right? Whereas the reactive nature tendency is anxiousness because it's acting out willfully to experience all of those feelings and uh, of emptiness, and so you behave outwardly. Whereas
Yeah,
the other one,
is
you know,
internalized. So this is fascinating because I think I've been both.
mm-hmm,
There have been times recently where I have completely shut down and I just go in and it's like I'm like in hibernation mode. Like I don't want to be around people. I don't want to feel anything. I don't want to watch TV. I don't want to do anything that is too stimulating. And I completely, I don't think I numb out, but I think I just go in. And then
well, I
there's the
think,
other ones where I'm screaming and yelling like a little banshee or a, spoiled rotten child or something where
well,
it's
Did you feel frozen? Like, or were you just being still and trying to
No, I
assimilate?
felt the frozen where I feel nothing. Like I
Yeah.
shut. It's like we just watched that movie the other night where the child goes off, turn off the robot, turn off the android, and it was like powered down, not feeling completely, um, and I can't move. That's the thing that's fascinating to me is I feel like I literally have gone into a coma. It's like my body just kind of like goes into, and it's like moving is torture. So I don't know. I'm just wondering, can you at different times in your life be both reactive and repressive?
Oh,
Be both.
I'm sure we signed up for the totality of this human experience. So,
Cheers. Okay, I get.
cheers to that. Us humans, we're so funny.
Oh my gosh, really? Okay, so yeah, so more about that, please. So
Okay.
if we're doing these things, it can show up in a variety of ways for each person to look at how you're freezing, right?
Yeah.
Or in the fight mode.
Right. And it I do want to read this paragraph because I really think it hones in on all aspects of our bodies, our mental bodies, and our astral body. Like the whole thing. It's important to understand the mechanics of this shadow of the 24th um, as addiction in order to find the root of the deepest of human suffering. And one way to enter this mystery is using the model of the Corpus Christi mentioned in the 22nd gene key. Now, the Corpus Christi refers to the 7 bodies, layers or sheaths of a human being. And to really understand the mechanics of your suffering, you have to consider the 3 densest bodies and their
Okay.
relationship to each other: the physical, the astral, and the mental. So the root of human suffering is wired into your DNA in the physical body. I think
Right.
that's why I think that's why it's so important to do somatic practices. Um, it's the very densest of the 7. It is the primal sacred wounding running throughout humanity, and its single purpose is to eventually trigger your awakening. So this key, this addiction is not necessarily bad. It's there to, it's like an alarm clock going bloop, 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 something that we get to play in so that we can eventually come back to the understanding that we are all one. But
Right. And
we have
that's
to,
how each of these shadows are so great at like pushing us, unwilling sometimes humans, get there, get to the next level, learn from this.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All desires are rooted in the single desire, and that is the desire to escape suffering. So that's caused by the primal wound and the return to the pure state of unity. So if you can look deeply enough into this desire without acting on it, it would actually burn itself out, which is the underlying purpose of meditation.
Okay.
Okay. Um, which I didn't I never even thought about that when I would go into meditative states, that is what I was doing, but that's makes a lot of sense.
Well, can some people use meditation as an escape from being with the issue at
With
hand? I mean,
human.
all right, fine. Because I mean, I know a lot of people that use exercise, that use yoga, that I mean, like they go to their yoga practice because they don't want to deal. They're like, oh, I'm dealing with it. And I'm like, and part of you is dealing with. I'm not so sure all of you is. I don't know. I mean, who am I to judge?
We all got our stuff.
Geez. So
uh
so
yeah.
when when we have enough of this um circling around, I mean, because I can see how the mental gyrations, I can feel it in my body like a humming vibration. And then what did you say it was? Astral, mental, oh, and physical. Um
Yeah.
how? to get to this, to the gift of innovation, is that when we're like, okay, I need to, like, where's the escape route here? Is there an exit off this?
Okay, well,
Because
yeah, when you only can when you turn it takes you to turn inward. I mean, it's really identifying where you're at when you're there, and you can see the addictive pattern of your own. It usually happens in the mind. Um, but I will say what's really that's a good word. Fun about the when you get to the state of innovation, you recognize, and you see it and you go, I want to pattern interrupt. I want to try something new that I've never tried before. And I don't need
I
to stay on this.
wonder if, yeah, this is
I
where those
wonder.
questions
I'm
and the
curious.
curiosity, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of the gene key pillars too, is inquiry. And so if you play with those four, sometimes I just go, okay, do I need to be more gentle or patient, or do I need to be an inquiry or just contemplate? Do I just sit here with this and
And
contemplate?
that's what this is. This invention is he calls it resting in the gap. And it is surrounded by contemplation, curiosity,
Patience,
letting
gentle.
the letting the heart take the process and dropping into the creative human state, instead of this, because we all go back to what's comfortable to us, and I think that's why we a lot of times stay in the addictive state because it's comfortable. But when
Yeah, it's
we
it's the way it's like we have now put together, that is the fastest neural pathway to, when this happens, do this. And to interrupt that and go, nope, roadblock, literally like on the highway going, you can't get off on that exit anymore. You're gonna have to go down here and do this new
construction zone,
it's like, what do they call it when they take you on a new way of going and you're like,
detour.
a detour.
Yeah.
This feels weird. So then the invention of this new way is, so that's where we, is that where we play with, I want a new way to do this. Is there another way to be with this? Is there another way to feel with this? Is there another story I can tell myself?
Yeah, it's certainly that's where we can shift
Mm.
and try new things. And, you know, I think the more spontaneous, the better, because you're not, again, thinking, it's more just bubbling up out of you.
Well, you are so good with, what do you call it? Following the yum.
Hmm.
Can you explain that a little bit? Because sometimes if we don't slow down enough to listen, we don't know that. Ooh, how do you
Well,
know that?
and I mean, there's only a certain portion of us that are geared this way. So I can't speak to all human design, but I can certainly speak to my sacral. And um, if I'm out of alignment, I feel frustration. And when I am in my groove, it's when I light myself up and you know, it's the yum. It's following the mm-hmm. You can even hear it in the tone of my voice. If somebody asks me to what I think about something or what I might want to try, and I'm just kind of mm, like you can see it probably in my face or in my voice, and I'm just like meh. I don't I can't bother trying to force my body to go there because it's not gonna end well. It's not. It like knows my body knows. I think
Well,
that's
the
kind of an
timing,
interesting.
and I mean, it's not like you won't be doing this, whatever that you're invited to do,
No,
but
correct.
the timing is for me. And
Right.
I think so much of the time I've been programmed that you just get over yourself and just go do it anyway. And then I know I'm setting myself up for,
Well, and I do think that there's a little play in that because there are times where I'm like, oh, I don't really want to. But then you know that when you try it or you do it, then it's like, oh, what was that? Why didn't I even, that's so delicious. Why didn't I even try it? So there is this kind of even pattern interrupt even when I get beyond the yum, but I do honor my body when it's I'm like, I ask it, are you playing in an old paradigm? Are you
Oh, well, that's good. And
are
how
you
old is
caught
this
in
story? Yeah, we used to do that.
right,
Like how old is that story?
right,
Or
right,
because then we can go, oh, wait a minute, that's my 6-year-old talking, not my
right, right.
adult self. So,
Are we, are we ready for an upgrade? This is
how about an adventure to do something different?
right. And
Yeah.
so I always invite myself, okay, what might feel kind of curious and interesting to try that maybe I haven't done before. And that's more about the way I operate. Now I recognize not everybody operates from that same premise, but um it's
But
always
there
an
is going to be
adventure.
some kind of message, whether however you receive your intuitive or your somatic uh hints, or
Right.
guidance. So that's a good one to check in with yourself. But I have the similar one too as you, and I am not as well trained. You've got yours like, turned on. I'm like, oh, really? That would be almost too easy, Deborah. Are you kidding me? Why would I want to do that?
Well, especially for somebody with your design, and you're looking at it, you're ecstatic, like follow that. Ooh,
I know, but then
wow.
it's like, oh, but that would be too much fun. That would be privilege. I mean, I have all of these little, anyway, we can get off into that another time. So, so where we want to play is the invention space or the opening into what else what is another way of being with this? Because this noise, this collective human addiction, which basically shows up as this very noisy world, is difficult, especially for us who are more sensitive right now. And I want to encourage all of us that are feeling this like this huge pressure, that's okay. This is us going through the change, and on some level, find what do we need to invent that works for us. You know,
Right. And
uh,
not everybody, we're not cookie cutter. Remember,
yeah,
got to
everybody's gonna have
find
to
what
find
works
what
for
works
you.
for them, right?
Well, um,
And this is where we need to stop listening to other people like do your do your work. We're
do
just
you, boo?
invite. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh
Um,
when
I,
you get to
I,
talk about city.
yes, I will. I do want to bring up this because we talk about frequency and we talk about, he talks about octave, octave, octaves on the frequency. And so like when you're on one pattern, it's a loop, right? So the mental pattern, it's a loop. But what we do when we get into invention is that we are going up the spiral. So it's a way to um, be able to observe yourself, and that's what contemplation is, right? So you're able to observe yourself from a different point of view to say, okay, where am I ignorant? What needs to open up in me, and allowing that shift to take place, however it's taking place.
Yeah.
Um,
I like that. So it's but to not just this is when I'm in a space of contemplation, a lot of times I'm like, I want something radically different. And sometimes it's just going to be a little up, a little spiral up.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So silence, which is the citic state, is a whole nother level. I mean, that's when you are as he calls it, exiting the wheel. And so
Mhm.
you are, and I feel like it almost feels timeless because you're in that spaciousness. And so that's when silence is that thing that occurs when the mental is just,
Yeah. It's the mute button.
yeah. And he says true silence then not is from here. It drops down into your solar plexus and you know who you are.
The truth.
That's
Right. So it's
that's
like,
that I am. Is
yeah,
that the mood? Is that the
beautiful.
mudra?
This is the mudra. So the mudra is you put your thumb and four fingers together, as we kind of do sometimes. And um, then you touch them and you can kind of feel the vortex. To me, it almost looks like, we used to do this as kids, but it almost looks like that infinity loop,
Mm.
that's between them. And between our hands, as they're kind of cupped around it, this is the open version. So this creates kind of a vortex of silence that we can breathe into. And then if we really feel like we need to enter, he didn't use the word, but like a temple, we can close it, keeping your thumb and forefingers together, but closing your hands around it. So that really feels like you're in a um, sacred internal space. So you can play with the difference, feel whether. So I invite you to play with that. And I'm starting to use that when I start to feel my spinning up or I hear the mental chatter or it's just a way for me to, for me, it just brings my energy down and in and down into my belly, which the cauldron always can absorb whatever we put in there. And
Yeah.
that's something I forget. Staying up here is
So,
dangerous. Oh, and
so
one thing about that I wanted to add that I found fascinating is there's a line in the end of the chapter, under the Siddhic state, where he says, silence um, will happen when the collective, the humanity, all of us, get to a place of shutting down the noise, and then we will have true synarchy. And I had to look that word up in the glossary in the book. And he defines synarchy as we've been operating a lot in heterarchy. I mean, sorry, in hierarchy. One person runs the whole, has power over. We've been moving into heterarchy, which is great, but it still has some people in higher positions than others, and there's still levels of power. And we are moving into this synarchy state where everyone, how did you word it, is putting
everyone
their
brings their
gifts
gifts.
into the collective, and we're all in this, and we can feel each other, and we can feel each other feeling us. And
Yeah, it's not noisy at that point. It feels more of a symphony.
thank you.
And this is the 44 and this gene key, the 24th, are programming partners. And so when you think of the shadow of addiction, it's interference. When
That's
you
the programming. Okay.
Mhm. And so when you think of the Siddhic state, silence and synarchy, and the gift is innovation and teamwork. So everybody is using their gifts, and then we're
Okay,
working in tandem with one another.
I am
So,
liking
yeah,
that. What else, other bits of wisdom do we want to share around this? This is a pretty intense topic, but it's also part of the ring of humanity.
life and death,
Oh, this is life
life and
and
death.
death.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, because I mean, I think in the 64 ways he talked about, this is the fear of annihilation. And
Okay.
a lot of people, when they they like freak out, like annihilation. What does that mean? Oh my God, that means I am nothing. But you know what? When we really truly understand who and what we are nothing
Never
and
die.
everything all at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. We are.
I mean, we happen to be in these vehicles, so we believe that this is true,
And that this is
but
this is this is who I am. Mm-mm.
right.
I've been very
And
fond of this body throughout this lifetime, and you know what? I know that it's not. I mean, I can see after 67 years, it's not quite the same as it was before, and it's okay with me. Oh, look, this is changing. Oh, this is changing. Hmm. I do want to add one thing that I find fascinating about the interference thing. Um, the interference patterns that are transferred through your DNA must be resolved in order for a fractal to be cleaned. So you may have inherited in your DNA oppression or certain things from your cultural, your ancestral background that you are here to heal, to transmute, to
Hmm.
and that I like the idea of cleaning, because then it's like, okay, this has now been opened for all of humanity in that fractal to heal that backwards and forwards and present. So it's a
Yeah.
beautiful image to me anyway.
Clean up aisle 5. Oh, goodness gracious. We can't take it too seriously.
Definitely
Okay.
not. So, anything further today, or shall we close our, or are you going to add a card, or what are you feeling?
No, I'm feeling not a card, but I feel
Tony?
like something I feel like toning or something might be coming through. So just open your heart, be quiet with the mind. And this is about returning into that space that you know to be true within you. This is the returning. Yarak yasaroko ayata. Iki arakataeto siamaraka ni.
I love when we communicate without the words that keep our mind active. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
I got my Suzanne joy in my cup today. Cheers,
Many
everybody.
blessings. Have a great week.